Have so-called black people been traumatized? Absolutely. By so-called white people? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the storyline and what happened is a complete lie. It's a complete lie. White people were the slaves, but the white people were the slave masters. White people fought for their freedom and got it, and when they got it, they got revenge on their former slave masters. This is what done happened. And then they tricked us into believing that we was the slaves the whole time. Did white people put us into slavery? Yes, they did. Started on July 4th, 1830. On July 4th, 1830. That's when it started. Right? They didn't finish the job until the 1860s. They had about 30 years. And it was in the 1850s that they got the bright idea to go over to Africa and start bringing over some Africans. This is where they came up with the idea. This is when they came up with the idea. And it's not maybe did this happen. There's records to prove everything that I'm saying. And I already found all the records. See, this is what they don't want you to know. Okay? Even if it did happen the way they say it happened, which it did not. Even if it did happen the way they said it happened, what would you celebrate your trauma for? Who celebrates trauma? The trauma that happens to them. People, your brain is designed to suppress trauma when trauma happens to you. It's designed to suppress trauma. So people go through some craziness and can't remember it and don't remember it. They'll forget it because their brain is protecting them. But we the only group of people who celebrate our trauma, which is not even a real trauma. We do have real trauma. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that the storyline of when the trauma happened and who the trauma happened to is a complete joke. It's a complete joke that started in the year 1914 and has been embellished ever since. And they have come up with this mind control game that they play on us. We started thinking this movie reinforced. There's another movie that helped reinforce this slave talk, this slaves from Africa talk, which is Uncle Tom. But they don't tell you about the other Uncle Tom movie. Don't nobody watch that. The one that came out in the 20s. If you was to watch the Uncle Tom movie that came out in the 20s, it's a silent film, so they know we're not about to watch that. But if you was to actually sit down and watch it, and then you sit back and watch the one that came out in the 80s, you're gonna be like, oh, see, they got caught. They got caught. They got caught. It's not even about Uncle Tom. He has a part in it, right? And then the original Uncle Tom was white. See, we sure not about to talk about that. I mean, they got advertisements with a white Uncle Tom. This is what they got before it was a movie. Back in the 1850s. 1853. Right? I'm not going to get too heavy and detailed into it because I prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt in the book, Lost Along the Way. This mind control that we've been sold, it's time to stop it. As long as we believe that so-called white people are oh so great and we're slaves from Africa, it's just Black History Month. The point of it is to reinforce our trauma, to reinforce the false beliefs that we're slaves from Africa. Right? This is what it is. This is when all the shows come on. All the shows come on where We talking in our slave. Yes, master. I was gonna do. I'll be good slave, master. This is. I've never heard anybody talk like that. Like, I mean, I've lived down south. I've lived out west. I've lived east coast. I've lived up north, and I have never heard anybody running around talking like these so-called, well, yes, oh, master, I was sorry, master, it was an accident. No, please don't whip me, master. I ain't never heard nobody talk like that. And I know that nobody talk like that. It's just a big game that gets us believing. It's a hypnosis. We start hearing that slave voice and we start thinking of the spiritual hymns from Africa. Those old slave spiritual hymns. One day we's gonna be free. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous when you know the truth. It's ridiculous when you know the truth. See? And the truth done been uncovered. And it's time to start learning the truth. And it's time to stop celebrating. First of all, we're supposed to celebrate Black History Month. When is White History Month? Oh, they don't have a month. Every month is White History Month. And we took 11 of the months, and here you guys go. I mean, and to accept 1 month when they get 11 months is to accept second-class citizenship. That's to accept crumbs. You're being trained to accept crumbs when you have the audacity to celebrate this nonsense. And it's complete nonsense. Now, what do we do it for? Because we've been trained since we was little kids that we slaves from Africa. But it wasn't always like that, see? Because before we started going to the so-called white people's schools, we didn't believe we were slaves from Africa. We didn't get taught that we were slaves from Africa. We knew that we were from America originally. Did nobody bring 20 million black slaves over in 15 years? They didn't do it. There were slaves getting brought to America, but they weren't black. They were white. See? They were white. That's the big secret. That's what don't nobody want to tell you. But you don't see them having no White History Month. And they're never about to come out and voluntarily tell you that they was the slaves from Europe. And you was their slave master. That's the last thing they about to tell you. It's the last thing they about to tell you. Come on, keep on singing them. You was a slave from Africa now. Let's get it back together now.
This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now.